All right, all right, all right. It's Thursday night. This is Real Law Alabama, joeingramlaw.com. My phone number is 205-335-2640. We handle family law and criminal law cases in Alabama from Huntsville, Birmingham, Montgomery, Mobile, and even the Dothan area, Wiregrass area if you have serious money. That's our joke. You know what it means. So we've been away for a few weeks, been working really hard, and my goodness, the summer came and is gone now. And Jill, I looked at my billable hours this summer. For me as a solo practitioner, I had 550 billable hours from June until the end of August, and a little tired. I'm going to the beach next week, and so this will be it for a couple of weeks. So that's where we start tonight. For our listeners at home, as you know, we try to find really good talent all over the country. I follow a lot of people on LinkedIn. I find people that I like, people that are interesting, that have things to share. And you have to go make an introduction to people, and you say, hey, will you do this? Some will, some won't, but you don't know if you don't ask. And tonight's guest is a wonderful young lady, very talented lawyer, very bright, has a wonderful career ahead of her. And we have a little bit of a professional history that we may discuss tonight. Don't want to give too much away. And I've had to work with her schedule a little bit, and she's had to get some clearance from the government and the CIA to do this. That's a joke. And I thought, I'm just gonna pause until I get to do this. So without any further ado, tonight we have Miss Jill Dutmers, a certified board construction attorney down in South Florida. Jill, are you with us?
I am. Thank you so much for having me, Joe. I really appreciate it.
All right. Well, that's great. All right, Jill. So introduce yourself to the audience. Tell us a little bit about you and whatever you want to share with my guest tonight.
Absolutely. So I grew up in the great state of Michigan. It's where I lived until I was 18 years old, and I eventually came down to Florida to go to college. I went to the University of Central Florida to study English literature for 4 years. And then at that point, I decided that I was going to attend law school, and I went up to Alabama, Tuscaloosa more specifically, and attended the University of Alabama to get my legal education. So I was there for 3 years, got a really great legal education at the University of Alabama. And at the end of my 3 years, I decided wanted to be closer to my family, and I decided to come back to Florida and to take the Florida bar. And since then, I have been living and practicing in the Tampa area for the last 6 years, primarily doing construction law and representing everyone from subcontractors to general contractors, developers, and now I do some more work on the owner side as well.
Okay. Um, so first of all, um, you you grew up in Michigan, is that right?
That is.
Okay, and then y'all moved to Florida, is that right?
I was the one who moved, actually. I'm the oldest child. I was the first to go to college. I grew up in a pretty small hometown and really wanted to have out of state college experience, kind of spread my wings a little bit. And so I was the first one to move and come down to Florida. I have a younger sister who's a year behind me in school. She eventually followed and came to UCF the next year. And then once both of us were in school in Orlando, my parents figured, well, what the heck? We should probably think about retiring to Florida in the next couple of years. And my parents followed us pretty shortly thereafter. And so now the whole family lives in Florida.
Well, that's great. Um, did you know growing up that you wanted to be an attorney, or when did you decide that you wanted to go to law school?
I figured it out probably like middle of high school. For the longest time, I thought I wanted to be a doctor. which is actually what my younger sister does. And we now knowing her and knowing what she does for a profession, that would have been a totally horrible pick for me. But that's what I thought I wanted to do for the longest time. And I was in high school and had actually a teacher who had us do like a mock trial in class, and I was very enamored with the idea of standing up and questioning people and delivering opening and closing statements, even as silly as it was when I was 14 or 15. And also really liked reading and writing. Those were really my strong subjects. And at that point, I started thinking really seriously about do I want to make a switch and really seriously look about attending law school and setting my sights on law school as I was going through college.
Yeah. Um, so what's a day like for Jill? What's your morning routine like, Jill?
So my morning routine, I am a morning gym person, just because I think it helps me be a little more clear throughout the day. And I tell people all the time that I don't work out after work just because I don't know what my day is going to be like. There's not a lot of fires metaphorically at 6 in the morning, but I get a lot more of those at 4 o'clock in the afternoon that might prevent me from leaving the office when I think I'm going to. So I am very much like a get up, go to the gym, come home, get ready for work, eat breakfast, go into the office. And then once I come into the office, that's kind of where I triage and I see emails that may have come in either, when I closed on my laptop the night before or in the morning as I was driving in. I really sort of make my list of, okay, what do I have to get done today? What are the non-negotiables that, need to be addressed? And then what are deadlines that are further out that I can start picking away at?
Yeah. Um, Let me ask you this. What's the best or the greatest compliment you have received in your life to date?
Ooh, that is a good question. I'm trying to think of one. I'm trying to think of like a specific one. I would say it, any compliments that are based on um, not based on career, not based on academic achievement. It's any time that someone has told me either that I have, done the right thing or been a good friend or like been a good listener. Like I feel like those have been the compliments that have really stuck with me, more so than oh, you did a good job arguing that motion. Those are very throwaway, but I do have, there are certain times that I think, when someone has said to me, wow, it's really admirable that you've, stayed friends with that person for 20 years. Like, those compliments stick with me more.
Yeah. Personal accomplishments.
Yeah, yeah, more about your character as a person, than, like I said, academics or as a lawyer. Because at the end of the day, too, I think if you are a good person, then that's gonna show up in all the other aspects of your life.
Yeah. I agree with that. All right, two questions, Jill. First of all, I'm not going to let you off the hook tonight. I want the audience to know when you were in law school, I think you were the editor of the psychology review board. Is that right?
I was the managing editor, so I was sort of second in command.
See, you thought I forgot that, didn't you?
I didn't think you forgot that. We talked a lot when I worked for you.
Ah, Jill, you didn't want to tell the audience. You just gave it away. Um, yes, you did work. You didn't work for me, Jill. If you'll remember, I always told you we work together. You don't work for me. Didn't I tell you that?
You did.
Yeah. And I never treated you like that, did I?
No, no. It was a really good working experience just in that regard because I felt like at the time, for your audience who doesn't know me, I was writing blogs for Joe's website, which was really great for me too. As I was in my last year of law school and sort of had a lighter class load, and was looking to work a little bit and get a little more legal experience before graduating. And it was a very collaborative experience, I would say, because I would write things and I would research things, sort of how I thought, but then I could call you and say, well, what do you think about this? Explain this to me, how you see it in practice, because I was a law student. I hadn't practiced yet.
Yeah. Well, you were wonderful, and I tell people about you to this day. We never actually physically met in person. We met over the phone, even back before Zoom calls, and we did everything remotely. I gave you a lot of room, unless I said, Jill, we got a deadline here. I need something by a drop dead date. And you were just fantastic. You really were. So,
Well,
uh,
thank you. That's a very nice compliment.
well, and I'm so proud of you. So here comes the next question. I know a little bit about Florida law, not much. Everybody down there gets board certified in their specialty, kind of like in Texas. What does it mean to be board certified in construction law to my clients?
All it means is that I have really dedicated myself to construction. It's not something I dabble in. I don't do construction and family and criminal. It's a way to show that I have really taken the time to educate myself and essentially make myself an expert in construction law. And so there's different requirements for each of the different types of board certification in Florida, but in for construction, the requirements are that you have to have practiced for at least 5 years. You have to demonstrate that a certain percentage of your practice is construction, and then you have to sit for an exam. And the exam is the best way I describe it to people. It's basically like sitting for the bar again, like a 1 day bar in that practice area. So I basically studied from January to May, originally just like January through April. It was pretty much just weekends. Like I would outline on Saturdays or Sundays. And then I took 2 full weeks off from work and did basically like bar studying, like 8 hour, 10-hour days, and then sat for a 1 day exam on every aspect of construction law. And then, you know, bar examiners review it and they decide whether or not you've passed.
So how does it compare to the bar exam? How long do you have to wait on your results to come back in?
I think I waited even longer than I waited for the bar exam. I waited about which is the crazy thing because, when I took the bar exam in Florida, you take it in the Tampa Convention Center, and it is a massive amount of people. It is they take up like a big panoramic picture every year, and it's thousands of people. You sit, two people to these like really rickety plywood desks, tables, and it's thousands of people, and it takes like I think 2 months to get your results back. Board certification in construction, I believe there were maybe 25 of us who took it, and it took them 3 months to get us our results back. So, everyone who practices law or who has any experience with the law knows it's not the most efficient mechanism. And that could not have been more true than waiting for my results on a 1 day exam that, 25 people in the state took.
Huh. Just 25 in
I
Florida.
believe so. Yeah, this year I think it was a small amount of us.
Wow. That's really great. So now you're at Schutz and Bowen. Did I say that correct?
You did?
Okay. And you're a senior associate. Um, I'm going to ask, I don't know, not trying to offend you. I presume you're on partner track. Is that correct?
I am. Yes.
Congratulations.
Thanks. It's a good
How many?
feeling.
So, without getting you in trouble, is it you think it's a 2 year, 4 year wait, or do you know? Or
A couple more years, nothing crazy.
okay, that's great. Jill, I'm so proud of you.
Thank you, thank you, thank you. It's I've only actually been at Shuts a few months. I just made a switch back in May, so but it's been a good switch, and it's been a good fit. So it's been a nice feeling.
Yeah, you got a new job. You just got board certified. You've had a really good summer. So,
I have had a good summer. It could have gone one or two ways, and it went well, so that's good.
well, that's great. Okay, so let's ask you some more questions. What do you do in your free time, Jill? What do you do for fun?
So a couple years ago, I actually got certified to teach yoga. I was kind of looking for something to force me to leave the office because I'm someone who likes to practice law and can get very wrapped up in my cases. And I was looking for a reason to, really force me to have hobbies and have a social circle outside of my office. And I have practiced yoga basically since I practiced law, just because, it's good for stress and we sit a lot at our professions. Whether, even when I'm traveling, sometimes that means I'm just sitting in the car. So, yeah, so I got certified to teach yoga a few years ago. And so I'm either often teaching yoga. I've just taken a break since switching jobs, but I was teaching yoga for the last couple of years, or I'm practicing yoga. So that's definitely a big part of my life. Other than that, I've lived in Tampa for 6 years, so I've got a good circle of friends here that I like to see in evenings and on the weekends. I still like reading for fun. That's always going to be the English literature nerd in me. And, travel whenever I can, find the time and find the break between cases to, book a ticket and go somewhere fun.
Yeah. Two questions about your life as an attorney, um, rather than my life. How many hours a week do you work? And how many billable hours a week are you trying to achieve or are you supposed to achieve?
I would say I'm trying to achieve at minimum 40 billable hours a week. So I'm trying to at
Wow.
least put, yeah, eight, 8 hours on the timesheet a day, which of course means that you're working more than 8 hours a day because not everything's billable.
Right.
So I would say I'm in the office by 9 most mornings, and I try to leave between 6 and 7 most nights, and I try really hard not to do stuff on the weekends, but things come up, right? I had a day last week where it was right before the holiday weekend. I was trying to get stuff done. I really wanted to get on the road at a certain time. So I got up and started working at 6 in the morning so I could get through all my stuff. So it varies. And then there are days that are lighter, and I try and, be better about, okay, if it's lighter, take advantage of that, shut stuff down, make sure my assistant doesn't need anything from me, and get the hell out of the office.
Okay. Well, that's great. That's great. Let me ask you a question. You're down in Tampa, right? Great weather. What is the I've never been to Tampa, Jill. What is the market there in relation to Tuscaloosa or Birmingham, Alabama, as far as um, livability, cost of homes, that type of stuff? What it's a pretty pricey area, right?
It is, and it's gotten pricier in the 6 years that I've lived here. I had I'm living in, I just moved in the last couple of months, and I'm living in a very similar area to where I lived when I was first out of law school. And the price differential in rent is just astounding to me. And especially as somebody who does construction, right? I look at these buildings and I'm like, none of them are really that great. They're not, they're nothing super special. But the prices of homes are also just astronomically priced. But sort of 2020 COVID years, there were a lot of people who moved from New York, moved from California, wanted to get out of those big cities, wanted to get out of states that had a lot of restrictions. And, they came to places like Tampa or St. Pete, another sort of smaller city in the Tampa Bay area. And they saw these brand new high rises with, studios that to LA and New York people are steel. And so those people have all moved here and have sort of driven the prices up. So it's hard. It's a lovely area. There's a lot of good restaurants. There's a lot of young people. It's good for families, but it is just getting more and more high priced, and it doesn't seem to be coming down.
Yeah. Yeah. Um, Jill, do you remember the case that you worked on for me? I had this guy, he was a contractor. Do you remember the case that you worked on, the house My guy put all his money in as the contractor. Do you remember that house? It had an elevator in it. Do you remember that?
Yeah, I do. I remember it vaguely. I remember drafting some sort of brief for you on that case.
Well, you drafted a response to a motion for summary judgment, Jill.
That's what I drafted. Okay, it's been a little while. I haven't thought about that case in a little while.
That's okay. I know you haven't, but I have no life. But I went back and looked at it, and it's really sad because we won that argument hands down. Um, the judge just didn't want to fool with the case, and my client wasn't going to pay to appeal. And I was doing it on a contingency, and I just said, "No, I'm done with this." But we had a good case. I mean, it's really sad. He put all that money, time, effort, and supplies in it, and lost out to a bank. So anyway, I didn't know if you remembered that or not.
I don't remember. I remember the basics of doing the response, but I don't remember the holistic case. But I do empathize with the feeling of it's frustrating when you have a judge who just doesn't get your case. That is something I didn't get 6 years ago, but I definitely understand from practice now.
There's a difference between theory law and real law.
Yes, there sure is.
Okay, I'm not going to get you in trouble. All right, I'll shut up. I know where the line is, Jill. Okay. Let me ask you something. Uh, who has been the most influential person in your life?
Probably my parents, I would say. My parents owned their own business when I was growing up, and sort of before working from home was cool, they had a home office, um, because my dad sold advertising, and so he was basically like worked out his cart during the day, going to different businesses and selling advertising, and then they would come home and work out of their computers, when he wasn't, on the road selling advertising. And definitely seeing that type of work ethic, like my parents weren't at an office when they were working, like they were there, they were at home, and definitely witnessing that kind of work ethic was really influential, I think. And I shouldn't speak for her, but I will, on both my younger sister and I, and just sort of the careers that we chose, and being able to put your head down and grind and go the extra mile and all those types of things.
Okay. Let me ask you a question. I've asked this a couple of times here lately, because most everybody I interview is younger than me now. I'm getting old, Jill. Um, let me ask you this question. From your perspective, and you're on the rise. Your career's headed really way up. You've done really well for yourself. Is there a part of you, and I think I know the answer to this because I don't know you, but I know a little bit about you and how you think. Um, is there any part of you that has this term that we call imposter syndrome? Do you have that at all, Jill, or not? I don't think you do.
Oh, I definitely do.
You do?
I Yeah, I didn't really feel that until law school. I'm somebody who I kind of sailed through high school, but I really, other than like a couple little stumbles right at the beginning of college, I really kind of sailed through college. Um, and then I got to law school, and Alabama is such a good program, and like everybody had graduated at the top of their class in college. Everyone was very smart. Everyone was a very hard worker. And that really sort of knocked me down a peg. And then I will say, like, just practicing, I'm still young in my career. So there's times where, of course, I've done the work, I've researched, I feel confident in my motion, but there's still times where I'll say I go into court, but a lot of it is Zoom court now. But I go into court, and my adversary might be 15 years, 20 years older than me. I'm like, gosh, am I really sure in my position? Like, am I am I right on the law? Because they're very confident in how they're presenting it, which is right the role of lawyers, right? We wouldn't be doing a good job if we showed up when we weren't confident in our positions. But yeah, there's definitely imposter syndrome for sure. But I think that the more you practice and the more you just kind of push through. It does lessen, but it shows up in certain instances.
Yeah. Well, and I didn't ask you this to um, put you in a bad position professionally, because I tell you, Jill, even at my age, um, uh, every day I go to court, I still get nervous, and I should. And the day that you quit being nervous is the day you need to quit, because that means A, you don't care, or B, you think you've arrived. And either of those two choices does not apply in what we do, because it's called the practice of law.
I agree wholeheartedly. And I think it's such a good feeling when you are nervous, um, for your argument or the deposition you're taking or whatever it is you're doing that day, and then you perform and you do well. And it's so reaffirming. I had a case, my last job that was um, set for trial in January of this year, and in like December we had an all-day hearing scheduled for all of our motions for summary judgment, and just pick of the lot, the judge, decide which one was going to go first, and it just happened to be like one of the motions that I had agreed to argue was the one to go first, and I had, just because of the way that I've practiced and my age, I hadn't really argued in court a whole ton. Um, and I was so nervous to go up there. And we wound up having a really good day in court. Like, we did really well, but I was nervous every time I got up to speak, every time from 9 in the morning until 5 o'clock when we argued our last motion. But it was such a good feeling at the end of the day, being able to drive home and call the client and tell them that we had done well and that, their position in the case had changed in a better way. So I agree. I don't ever want to get so comfortable that I walk into an argument or a deposition or an opening statement or whatever it may be, and I think, I've got it, no problem, no big deal. Because I think the nerves are important.
Yeah. It's okay to have butterflies for a minute, but then when the game kicks off, your adrenaline kicks in, your skills kick in, and then you're ready to go.
Absolutely. And
Yeah.
part of the reason why I became a lawyer is I've always liked talking in front of people. That's never been an issue for me. So, I probably gave my parents way too many little performances and speeches and whatnot as a kid, and they're probably like, good, at least make some money off of it now.
I love it. Okay. All right. Let me ask you some throwaway questions real quick. Do you have a life motto at this point in your life?
I don't know that I have a life motto at this point in my life. But I've heard the saying, I know it can be kind of cliche, but just the idea of, you know, work hard and be kind to people. It's not particularly creative, but I do kind of think about that just in all aspects of my life, of just, treating the people around you with kindness and respect and all those types of things, and then, putting the work behind whatever it is that you're doing.
Okay. Let me ask you two questions I've been thinking a lot about, and it's because of some cases I've had this summer related to AI technology criminally. Um, and I asked my law clerk this semester, Jill. Um, all the all the federal courts have bought AI technology. Are you aware of that, for
I
research
was
and
not
writing?
aware of that.
Okay. All the federal courts have that, Jill. Throughout all 11 districts, everybody has AI technology, federal courts. Okay.
Mhm.
But the federal judge can use it, but they make you in federal court as a lawyer, if you use AI technology through Westlaw or whatever, legal research platform you use, you have to sign a certification form now if you used AI technology in writing your motion or your brief. Did you know that?
I did not know that.
Okay. And so I asked my law clerk the other day, by email, of course. I said, hey, what is the new philosophy at Alabama from the law school perspective on you using AI technology as a student? Are there any rules of the road? And she said, she's a third year student. She said, some of the professors know that you do it. They'll let you use it as long as you, I guess, disclose that you use it. And so I was just really curious from your perspective and what you do, if that's becoming a part of your practice yet, or if it's really not there yet.
It's interesting. So it's not a part of my practice in terms of anything I write for work, at least not yet. But just since I've changed jobs, this is I've always had Westlaw, but this is just like a slightly upgraded version of Westlaw. And this is the first time I've had a Westlaw subscription that has an AI component. And it has been remarkably helpful. Like I'm not somebody, I don't use ChatGPT for a bunch of things. I don't use AI for a bunch of things. I'm tech savvy, but I'm not like a huge tech geek about things. But the AI component of Westlaw, of being able to type in a question to Westlaw and have AI kind of run the first search, and then I can, pull the sites, read the cases, see if the AI got it right, because sometimes they don't, right? Sometimes their conclusions are not perfectly on par, but it's so much more helpful than something I'm not great at, which is doing like the Boolean searches and trying to connect all the words and, within sentence, within paragraph, or trying to chat with a Westlaw representative to craft that search, which takes a lot of time, takes a lot of billable time for my clients. So that's definitely been a great way to use AI, but I haven't used it for any sort of writing as of yet.
Okay. I wasn't trying to get you in trouble, just for a
No, no, you're
disclaimer.
not getting me in trouble. I just, can't candidly, I just hadn't even thought to use it for my own writing.
Yeah. I was just curious about that because it's coming. And the second part of this is really big, Jill. Um, the new thing, even at Alabama this summer, a lot of kids are not getting clerkships because they just don't need the bodies anymore because of technology. Have you heard that?
No, I did not know that.
Yeah. Yeah. I had well, you heard about my situation. We talked about it over LinkedIn message. Uh my law clerk I found on the last day of the semester, and I thought, I'm not going to get the best candidate now. But believe it or not, Jill, wonderful, wonderful student, really good, classy young lady, excellent writer, research, and she didn't have a clerkship to my benefit. So you haven't heard that yet from big law firm that the numbers are coming down. That hey, we just don't need the bodies because of the technology yet.
No, I haven't heard that yet. I was surprised, I will say, at my firm this summer, I know the Tampa office only had one clerk for our whole office, where I had worked at a smaller firm previously and we'd had, sometimes three or four clerks for the summer. Um, I will say, I understand that technology is great and it's helpful, but gosh, what a disservice if we are foregoing clerks in favor of technology, because we're still going to need lawyers, and the less experience we give these law students and then expect them to know how to practice when it's already so not intuitive when you come out of law school, I think that's going to be really challenging for students graduating in this day and age.
Yeah. And from my perspective, Jill, because I'm just a street lawyer, I'm not like you. I don't have your education and background. I'm just a street lawyer. I tell people every day, nobody's going to go in the courtroom and do what I do. A computer or a brain is not going to replace me in the courtroom to defend you. So I think I'm safe till I get to the end. I got 20 years to go, Jill. I think I'm home free.
I think you're gonna be okay. I mean, at the end of the day, you're gonna be fine. At the end of the day, right? Like a computer can come up with the research, but you need people to be taught how to present an argument, how to present an argument persuasively. I mean, there's a lot of very smart people who know how to do research, who maybe know how to write, and then don't know how to explain that to a judge, or don't know how to, look at different judges and what different judges want, and how to present arguments differently. So again, like AI is and maybe 20 years from now, Joe, when you're done practicing, maybe AI will figure that out. But I think where we are now, I think that's still best left to the humans.
Yeah, I agree with that. I agree with that. I just wanted to get your take from your perspective, your age, big law firm, what you were hearing down there, because it's really changed up here um, for the big law firms here in town, and you know which ones I'm talking about.
I do.
That they didn't. The numbers were way down this year in clerkships. Yeah, way down across the board. So
That's wild. That's just such a stark contrast to when I was in law school, and I wasn't in law school that long ago.
okay. All right. So we're 35 minutes in. Jill's tired. Jill, you're on Eastern time, right?
I am, yes.
Okay. I am very courteous of your time. I've enjoyed this. Just a couple more questions that I like to throw at you. And I've enjoyed the conversation, Jill. You know how I feel about you. Um, One question I like to ask, and I think this would be good for you from an English degree background, and I can only imagine what you're going to tell me. Jill, if you had the opportunity to have dinner with somebody that is dead or interview that person, who would you pick and why?
That's good. And I'm glad that you said coming from my English background because that like kind of triggered me to think of good people. I it would probably be I'm thinking of authors now. Probably Harper Lee, I think. To Kill a Mockingbird is my favorite book of all time. I read it in high school. Then my English teacher, who was sort of like my mentor in high school, gifted it to me again when I graduated high school, and was such a perfect uh, book to really transition me into college and thinking I was going to go to law school. And then sort of how perfect, because though she didn't finish law school, Harper Lee is also someone who attended University of Alabama law. So I think she'd be somebody I'd be very interested to talk to know about her writing process, to know what, you know, Alabama law was like when she attended it many, many moons ago. Yeah, I think she'd be an interesting dinner guest.
Okay, I got two questions before I get forget, Jill. I'm getting old. Bear with me. One, not trying to catch you off guard. When you said authors, and you said I thought you were about to say, do you know Flannery O'Connor?
I do know Flannery O'Connor.
Okay, have you ever heard the story Good Country People?
I I know the name. I don't know if I know the story.
Okay, well, Jill, if you have time and you're really bored, go Google this when we get off real quick. I tell people all the time that I am the Bible salesman in the story Good Country People. And if you go read the quick synopsis, which I know you will because you're brilliant, you're going to find out that the Bible salesman thinks he is the slickest one in the story. And the slickest one in the story is the young lady who has a prosthetic leg who outwits the Bible salesman. So that is my turn. When you were about to throw out authors, I was going to say, yeah, she's fixing to say Flannery O'Connor. But anyway, I'll digress from there. Okay.
I'll add it to
Uh,
my list.
okay. Go Google that when we hang up, Jill. The
I
next
will.
question,
I will.
I know you will. I know you will. If you do uh, direct message me, you'll get a kick out of it. Okay. Um, Something that you said is really important to me from a female perspective as an attorney. Now, you're white collar law. You're a big law firm, what I call, and you know what that means. That's not
Mhm.
being derogatory. That's being very respectful of you. What is your perspective of being an attorney as a female? Do you feel like you have as much respect and uh, all the attributes and everything that goes with it? Or do you feel like because you're a woman, you have to overcompensate, or you're not taken as seriously at first? You know what I'm talking about. Talk about that as a woman.
I do. And yeah, I think there's and that's probably kind of going back to that imposter syndrome. I think there's definitely some overcompensating that needs to be done or needs to be done initially. Especially I think being in construction law, and sometimes it's with my own clients too. Sometimes, in previous cases, I've shown up for site inspections because that's part of my job, and I would show up and meet with a client, and I am a white collar attorney. I don't have a construction background, right? Like I've learned construction via the law, but I am not somebody who, built houses prior to coming to law school. And there's people who have come into construction law because they had a passion for construction and then they went to law school. I don't make any bones about pretending that that's who I am. And so there's definitely been times that, I've shown up and I've met my client or I've met opposing counsel. And especially when I was, I'm still a young attorney, but when I was a much younger attorney, when I was a second year attorney and I look young and I'm a woman and I'm on this big construction site and I'm talking about stucco or I'm talking about roofs or windows or what have you. And there's definitely, some extra preparation that you need to do, and you need to really know your stuff and be really confident in what you say. Um, I will say, I've gotten it from other people's clients before where I've been at site inspections where other people's clients have asked me if things have gone over my head. And part of it is just I'm never going to engage with someone like that. I'm always going to be respectful and, either pretend I didn't hear it or say, no, I've got it. And then, I'm happy to beat their attorney in court later on down the line. I've argued motions before where, the other attorney has been, rude to me for, the year preceding in the case and, treated me like I am a child, treated me like I'm a little girl, whatever. And then, beat him in the motion for summary judgment. And I look him up on the Florida Bar website and realize, he graduated law school the same year I was born. So there is stuff like that. But at the end of the day, like you can't, if you focus on it, it'll drive you crazy. So eh, do I think there's a disparity? Short answer, yes. Um, but I think it's just, for me, it's just more motivation to know my stuff, work hard, um, be authentic, show my clients I know my stuff, show opposing counsel I know my stuff, and eventually they'll either believe I know my stuff right or they don't. And at that point, I've done what I can do.
Yeah. Yeah. I just wanted to ask. I did that from two other female lawyers this summer. Now, Jill, I'm gonna put you on the spot here. Don't lie. Um, I never treated you that way, did I?
No, I have never been treated that way by an employer. Um, I have mostly been treated that way by, like I said, either other people's clients, like the opposing client or opposing counsel. It is never been from an employer, which is I've been very thankful in my career in that regard.
Yeah. What advice would you give to somebody in law school that's about to take the bar or maybe get their bar results in 3 weeks? Or what advice would you give to somebody thinking they're going to go to law school? What would you tell them? Jill? Hey,
Hi, I lost you for a second.
yeah, I don't know what happened. It's because you're below sea level. What what
Probably.
ad- what
We're just
advice
sinking down here.
what advice would you give for somebody about to go to law school or become an attorney?
I would say spend as much time with attorneys in law firms, in different types of practice as you can, um, to really know that it's what you want to do. And I don't say that to dissuade anybody from law school, but I have known enough people who make the decision to go to law school because they're in college, they're not really ready, to go out into the real world and they have a history degree or a political science degree, and they say, well, I'll just go to law school because you can go to law school with anything, and not really realizing, and because someone has told them, oh, well, you can use a law degree for anything, which I don't disagree with, but I think law school is 3 really hard years if you don't actually want to be a lawyer. And so I think if you're going to go to law school, if you're in law school, I think you should, you know, intern for as many people, clerk for as many people, just chat, use as many connections as you can, use your either your undergrad's resources, your law school's resources, whatever, to be in touch with as many people as you can to really um, see different aspects of criminal law, family law, civil law, big law, small law, solo practitioner, whatever it may be, so that you can really be sure that, you know, being a lawyer is the right path for you. Because I think if you like it, it is a very rewarding profession. And whether that's, you find it rewarding to do transactional law, or whether you're someone like me who really likes the highs of taking a deposition well, or, doing well in an argument in a motion. Um, but if you see all of that and that's not going to do it for you, I don't think 3 years in law school is going to change your mind. So I just think, really having the experience of seeing as much as you can so that you can be very, very certain that law school is right for you. Because if it's not, it's okay, right? There's tons of other professions out there, and, you know, we're not lacking in lawyers, and it can sometimes be hard to find a job, and, sometimes the jobs aren't like as high paying as it looks like on TV. So I just think it's good to, really know the lay of the land before you commit to 3 years of law school and studying for the bar and all that comes with, becoming an attorney.
Yeah, I agree with that. Okay. So I've done my interrogation of you, and you've been so courteous. And I've enjoyed visiting with you, Jill. I really have.
Okay.
Um,
As have I. This has been lovely.
I'm going to give you 2 minutes or whatever time you want. What would you like to share with the audience? Final thoughts tonight.
Final thoughts. It's a good question.
Come on, Jill.
That's like the hardest one you've asked me. No, I just think final thoughts are, whether you're in law or whether you're in some other profession, I think it is so important to stay connected with your network. And I don't mean that from like a business perspective. I mean that from like a human perspective of, you and I, like you said, we've never actually met in person, despite the fact that you lived in Birmingham and I lived in Tuscaloosa at the time when I was writing your blogs. But we've always kind of had that human connection and the back and forth, and being able to be like, oh, Joe, I see you're doing XYZ, congratulations. But I think it's really important to not just move from one thing to the next, but to really sort of take what you've learned and bring it with you and keep the connections with people, because you never know when life is going to circle back around, and you never know when your good employer slash mentor Joe Ingram is going to start a podcast, and you're going to get to have a conversation with him 6 years later.
Oh, Jill. You're Jill, in 23 years, you're still in the top 3 of my law clerks.
I appreciate that. I'll take that accolade.
And I tell everybody how great you are, and I tell the little story about you, which I'm not going to say on the air, that you know what I'm thinking about. Don't
I
you?
do. Yes. Oh, yeah.
I'm not going to tell that because I am not going to hurt you professionally. I respect you too much, but I think it's so funny. And I was telling my wife the other day, I said, I'm not going to do that to her, as much as I'd like to share it. I think it's a great story, but I'm not going to do that.
Oh, you could share. That wouldn't bother me in the least. You could
Well,
totally share that.
let's just say, you had a typo when you applied,
I did.
and I was in a car Um, it was in January in 2018. God Almighty, Jill, 2018, and I was about to go to the chiropractor to have my back adjustment, and you realized what you had done, and you said, "Oh, this is over." Essentially, you know, you're ready to go. And I said, no, 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 no. I'm not going to do that. I'm not going to let you off the hook that easy just because of typo. Because what you don't know, Jill, and I'm about to disclose something that most people are starting to learn about me due to my work product. I do a quick PI investigation on everybody I deal with really quick. And I had done some research on you, and I was not going to let you walk just because of that. And I had four people I could have picked. And I thought, no, I'm going to pick her strictly because of this, because I've been there. People have made mistakes. It was nothing. And your work product was wonderful for the time that I had the privilege to have you work with me. And I am so proud of you. I really am. I
Hey,
mean, you just don't know how proud I am of you. Now, I will say this. I'm about to scold you, Jill.
okay.
On your bio, you give all the credence and privilege to your career to a federal judge here in Birmingham, Alabama. You don't give any privilege to me, or maybe what I helped you at all. So that's
That is
okay.
an oversight.
No, no, no. That's okay. I'm not a federal judge. I'm not a federal judge, but that's okay. But my law clerk this semester, and I had all summer, and we've talked about this offline. I was really concerned about her. She has done superlative work this year, Jill. You'd be so proud of her. And she's going to have a phenomenal career just like you. And that's what I love. You know, I mean, I love the interaction with new law clerks and law students. Um, I love to treat them like colleagues and professionals that they're going to be. I never downgrade them. I never scold them. I mentor them, and I get more out of it than they do. And that's what they don't understand. I really enjoy it. I really do.
Well, I'm very excited for your law clerk and all the things that I know she's going to do because I think it is such a great experience working with you because I know you do mentor your law clerks. Um, and regarding my bio, that is a horrible oversight because my experience working with you, Joe, is just as important as my experience with a federal judge who shall remain unnamed in the great state of Alabama. So I will absolutely amend that on my LinkedIn profile.
No, no, absolutely not. I have no purpose being in the same sentence with him. Absolutely not. I'm just kidding with you.
We're both lovely people that I worked with in Tuscaloosa, made my time
Uh,
in law school really wonderful, taught me a lot. So, as far as I'm concerned, same level.
no, 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 no. Okay. Well, Jill, thank you so much for 53 minutes and 52 seconds out of your life because you're a busy woman now. And maybe someday we get to revisit this podcast in 5 years when you're a partner and you get to show off what you're making. That's what you should be proud of because you've done the work and you've earned it. And we are professionals. And as I tell law clerks every semester, people don't know this. We are the oldest profession on earth, and we police our own every day. Right?
Right.
Yep. Yep. All right. So, folks, that was Miss Jill Dutmers, certified board construction attorney in Florida. And yes, she's well worth it. If you can afford her, you're lucky to have her as your attorney. We were so fortunate to have her as a guest for our audience tonight. Jill, I know you don't know this. My 5 to 10,000 subscribers love to hear lawyers talk about the law and that we're real people. And they really love that. And so I really appreciate your time tonight. And I'm glad you could do this. Thank you.
Thank you for having me.
Okay. So, folks, this is Real Law Alabama, joeingramlaw.com. We handle cases from Huntsville, Birmingham, Montgomery, Mobile, and even the Wiregrass area, Dothan. If you have serious money, you know the joke. You know what I'm talking about. Phone number is 205-335-2640. As I always say, take care of yourself and each other, and have a good night. Bye-bye. No representation is made that the quality of the legal services to be performed is greater than the quality of legal services performed by other lawyers.